Hi, happy Friday. This week I wanted to talk to you about true versus false pleasures. So, way back, hundreds of thousands of years ago, there were certain things that we needed in order to survive as a human race, in order to ensure that we evolved and we survived. And they were quite basic requirements. So we needed wholesome food. So we only had natural food at that point, or meat. Water to hydrate ourselves. We needed the comfort and shelter and warmth of a cave, or the heat to make sure we didn't freeze to death, and the dryness so we didn't get, so that we were protected. We needed to have sex in order to ensure that we had babies and survived and evolved as humans. We needed to have the comfort and the security of a pack. So we needed to be part of a group. Excuse me. So whenever we had those things, we would get a hit of dopamine, and dopamine floods our body with pleasure. Our brain wants to feel good. So that ensured that we got up out of our space and went to hunt and to drink water and to connect with a pack and to have sex and to make sure that we had a dry, safe place to live. Now, when you roll on hundreds of thousands of years, we've now got processed foods, flour and sugar. We've now to replace our wholesome foods. We've got alcohol, fizzy drinks, and squash and energy drinks to replace water. We've got the sofa and Netflix to give us comfort. We've got pornography. We've got social media, whereas before we needed the true human connections, we now get that dopamine hit from social media. So we now have manufactured pleasures in our life. And those false manufactured pleasures give us a false hit of dopamine. So it gives us an enhanced hit of dopamine, which our primal brain thinks is a survival requirement. So of course our brain is going to be navigated towards it. But when you realise that actually those false manufactured pleasures are having the opposite effect on our lives. They're not enhancing our life. They're not making us feel better. They're actually affecting our mental health. They're affecting our physical health, and they are actually making us ill. That is completely reprogrammable. And the first step of this is just to become aware of when you're choosing a false pleasure over a true pleasure. So I've got a bit of a story to share with you, and as an example of what I mean by this. So I was away for the weekend recently with my best friend, and the most important part for me of that weekend was truly connecting with my friend, being able to sit and talk and listen and discuss and be with her. And when that human connection is a true pleasure. And the more that you connect with a human, the better that relationship gets, the more enhanced that relationship gets, and the better ultimately that we feel. So that true connection is sustaining and life enhancing, versus the moment when I wanted to have a piece of cake and my brain went all focused on this piece of cake, which is a manufactured pleasure. But my brain got absorbed in that moment. And I wasn't listening to my friend. I wasn't focused on the view. I wasn't present with her. I was all up in my head thinking about the cake. So we went into this cafe and we found a chair with a beautiful view. But in that moment, I wasn't thinking about the view. I was thinking about the cake. And the thing is, when you're consumed by the false pleasure, that has such a spiral of negative effect on our life. Because I didn't actually end up eating all the cake. It was too sweet. But afterwards, we feel sick. We have a hangover. We judge ourselves and shame ourselves and criticize ourselves for doing that activity. We're hungover. We're putting on weight. We are physically affecting our bodies as well as our mental state. So actually, when we choose the false pleasure, it has a spiral of negative effect. It isn't sustaining and it is not life enhancing. So this is what I mean by the difference between a true pleasure and a false pleasure. And I would just like to challenge you this week to just look at your life with just curiosity. This is not a judging, criticizing thing to do for yourself. This is just with absolute fascination and absolute curiosity. Where in my life do I choose the false pleasures? And then ask yourself, what might be different if I chose the true pleasures? Now, initially, when you're cutting out the false pleasures, you're going to feel rubbish, right? If you drink and you're cutting out alcohol, or you eat sugar and you're taking it out your diet, or you're used to scrolling on social media and now you're just going to reduce that a little bit. To begin with, you're going to feel rubbish, and even the true connections you won't notice the dopamine hit. So you have this period of feeling crap. But when you get through that, and you get through the physical withdrawals, and you get through the emotional withdrawal, then you start to notice the dopamine hit you get from the true pleasures, and how nourishing it is to actually truly connect with someone that you love, and how it feels so good to put water into your body instead of fizzy drinks and alcohol, or how it feels so good to choose to go for a walk instead of slumping on, or doing some yoga instead of slumping on the sofa watching Netflix. Your brain's never going to want to do it, but when you choose that true pleasure, that is so much more enhancing to our life. So this is kind of the period of that in between time is what I help my clients navigate, right? I do it mostly with sugar, but you can apply this to alcohol, you can apply it to spending money, you can apply it to all the things. And sometimes we need that help. Sometimes we need that support. It's something that we can't always do on our own. So just for a bit of homework, just become curious, just become fascinated at where you're choosing the false pleasures over the true pleasures, and actually ask yourself, if I chose the true pleasures, how differently would I experience this situation? How differently would this, how would this enhance my life versus the false pleasures, which it won't be. And if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to get in touch. I can help you with this. This is what I do. And it is just a skill of learning how to manage your mind. So please get in touch. And if you like what you hear, make sure you subscribe down below so that you hear all my other posts that I put here. Have an amazing week, and I'll speak to you again soon. Bye.